Good morning, all. Welcome to the Hindus Education Plus webinar on career counseling. Today's webinar is about choosing engineering and finding career opportunities in entrepreneurship and research. We have with us three eminent persons who are experts in their chosen field. Mr. Chakkalingam Valliyappa, Vice Chairman of Sona Group of Institutions, is the founder of V Technologies, Hyaming, and Sona Yukti. A passionate, multifaceted entrepreneur born into a family of entrepreneurs dating to the 1920s, he co-founded Valliyappa Software Tech Park, an incubation company launching Oracle, Cisco, and Verifone in the country in 1995. 5 years later, in 2000, he founded V Technologies, a Fortune IOAP list of top 100 global services company. He is one of the founders of the entrepreneur organization Bengaluru chapter and is a member of the Global South Asia chapter of Young Presidents Organization. He won the Global Social Impact Award this year. Mr. MP Pattabhiraman is founder CEO of People Radius and former head of human resources at McKinsey. An MBA from BIM focused on human resources management and personnel administration. He has become a leadership coach and offers training at leadership programs and is a visiting faculty in business schools. He is an experienced head of human resources with demonstrated history of working in IT, ITES, financial services and management consulting firms. He is adept at building trust-based relationships across organization levels. Mr. T.R. Parsuraman is president and whole-time director and member of the board of Toyota Industries Engine Private Limited. He is also president of the Bengaluru chapter of Chamber of Industries and Commerce. He graduated in BE Mechanical Engineering from the University of Madras and did his post-graduation in Technology Operations from BITS Pilani. He did a master's certificate program in Gemba Kaizen JIPM Leadership Development Program at Toyota Motors Global Learning Center, Mikabe, Japan, and is fluent in Japanese. He has over 35 years of experience in TVS and Toyota Group in various domains. He has been a brand ambassador bringing in new investments to Karnataka. I welcome you all three panelists. This webinar, the first person to talk would be Mr. Chokalinga, and it will be followed up by Mr. T.R. Parsuraman, and Mr. Pattabhiraman will take off as the third panelist. Mr. Chokalingam, over to you now.
Yeah, very good afternoon to you all. Ellarkum, my greetings for today. I think it's thanks to the Hindu, the editorial team, as well as the entire organization here and for organizing this event. So I think it's a timely event because most of the students are, as well as parents, are in a kind of a flux as to whether to choose engineering, what branch to choose, and those kind of things. So I think our journey for education started over 65 years ago. And today, Tyagaraja Polytechnic is in a journey of 65th year. And so through the years, we have always developed along with society. And that's why in 97, when the Y2K boom and the IT boom was happening, and India needed more engineers, and we were getting into the next phase of our economy, Sona College got started, and then more recently, our continuation towards arts and science education, as well as the school education. So today in Sona, I think we have the entire spectrum from KG to PhD. COVID has shown the light on Sona in many ways. So why I say that is because today, post-COVID, the whole world is now looking at digital education in a big way. But our journey of digital education started in 1995. So it's way beyond right now. So we were lucky that the Canadians came and gave us the best practices of digital education. I was lucky to go to Canada and sign the agreement to set up Sona University, which was the first digital education system in India, where we started producing web-based training programs and computer-based training programs. So from there, we then went into Blackboard. So we have a Blackboard learning management system because the Tamil Nadu government had given laptops to Theravada Polytechnic students, and we said, what is it that we can give? And more recently, we have invested about 4 years ago in lecture capture system. So the lecture capture system is about a 1.5 crore investment. So where every lecture in the class is captured today. And that's how we are now changing the entire system of education. So now we give homework at home, homework at class, and classwork at home. So that is the entire paradigm shift is possible through this. Because in class, you might suddenly, you might not know what the students, what the teacher said, but you can go rewind back and listen through these lecture capture systems. But the homework, where you need to do collaborative working, that you do it in class. This is the same way industry is going to function as well. So there are a lot of work from home and things like that will happen. And then just moving fast, so Sona has also got an extremely high industry linkage. So be it AICTE, CII award that we won across the years, literally every year, and strong collaborations with industry. So be it Toyota with Mr. Parshuraman, they've given an engine, or Ford has given 3 cars to Sona, or the Cisco lab. And how these are different is that the Cisco lab has enabled a student to get 18 lakh salary last year because they qualified in a Cisco lab. And there are many other things I can go on. And then today, there's also the skilling element which is coming into the forefront, because they say education alone is not enough, but skilling. And for skilling, the best place in India for skilling is Theravada Polytechnic. The best place in the world, one of the best places in the world is right here in Salem. So they tie up with these things to get maybe an advanced diploma or something like that. Those things become more and more relevant. And what we bring into the table is the entire ecosystem. So it's not just education alone, but it's industry as well. So in industry, we are there for 100 years. We started in 1920s in textiles, in agriculture, in technology, and through educational technology today through Hire Me. So just Hire Me alone has 3 million students who have been participating through our journey. And so I'll end here and take questions at a later time as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chakkalingam. Mr. Parasuraman. But before I go to Mr. Parasuraman, I want, Mr. Chakkalingam, I want you to tell me what kind of, I think I saw these advertisements going before we started. You had done some work with having thermal checks and all for students. So how did COVID actually change the way you look at education, especially engineering education, which is more into industry and lab-oriented subject, where children need hands-on training? How did you?
Yeah, so we first the best thing for an engineer is having a problem. So just the fact that you said the thermal check for students and the stuff, we started a company on that. It's a company called Code 9 Technologies, where students worked on it. And then there was last year an AICTE program on COVID. So we posed the problem to the children, for our students. And the students came up with this thing, how to find if you've been close to a COVID patient. This is way before Arogya Setu. So we were the pioneers of Arogya Setu, and it is being used today by Maruti and very large companies. The largest automobile manufacturer is using V-Trace. So then we converted that to the students built the model, and then the same students were involved along with V Technologies to develop V-Trace, and now it's being used by industry. Several industries are using it. Plus the largest steel cement manufacturer in India is also using it. And similarly, we came up with a problem, PPE suits. India had never done much of PPE suits. So this question came about seam sealing machine. how do you seam seal? Because the doctors going into COVID, and that became the biggest problem. Then we were lucky to be working with DRDO, the Defense Research Organization. They came up with this problem. So we put our mechanical engineers, we put our electrical engineers, and we put our fashion technology and textile engineers together, along with a bunch of students. They've designed a seam sealing machine today, which is a testament for total collaboration of how students and engineers should work and solve today's problems. So that is what you need today, hands-on engineering. So which has been lacking. The reason why today Indian medical education, or 32% of the Indian of the doctors, total doctors in the US are Indian, is because the hospital is next to every medical college, and that is what we need to create, and that's what we are creating. So trying to do more internships, more hands-on problems, giving students the opportunity to work on live problems. This is something that, and there are many other programs that we work with. So, for example, you go to the toilet, you get a smell. And so we developed a patent along with students today on how do we deduct smell in a toilet. And so that was a problem given to the students. Even at home, they're working, collaborating today, because that's how world is working today. So we give them the problems, get the solutions, and then work that way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Parasuraman, you have been in Japan, and you have some 35 years of experience in the industry. So I would like you to throw light on how engineering actually is a beautiful subject to get into, but how students should look at it when they get into a branch of study.
Yeah, thank you, madam. First of all, good morning to all of you. I congratulate Sona Group and the Hindu for organizing this wonderful webinar. As rightly said by Mr. Choco, this has come at the right time, because yesterday the CBSE results have been announced and the students are in complete confusion, what they should choose. First of all, let me just put the big picture. See, today India is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. We are the youngest population in the world. This is a great advantage. We can reap a huge benefit out of this demographic dividend if you're able to harness the energies towards the right direction. We are looking at a 5 trillion economy by 2025 and much faster growth beyond 2025. If you look at manufacturing GDP as a percentage of the total GDP, we are at between 8 to 10% at this point of time, even much lesser. So we are looking at 20 to 25% GDP by 25, or in the next 5 to 7 years. So this is a huge opportunity in the engineering areas. This is point number one. The second point is, today if you look at the global economy, because of the aging population, most of the countries are getting into the aging population syndrome, be it Japan or United States or many parts of Europe or China for that matter. So what is going to happen, including China, if take typically China, they have moved from a typical manufacturing to a service sector. That the movement is happening now. Same thing is happening in Japan and many parts of the Western world. Whereas India, because of the age, we have the youngest population. Our journey is from service to manufacturing sector. This is a kind of a unique journey. Normally, countries move from manufacturing to service, but we are moving from service to manufacturing. Currently, we are 60% service sector, but now this transition is going to happen, and this is going to be a breakthrough paradigm shift. Therefore, whether we like it or not, we are not only going to have a market India for a captive market because of the sheer size of the country. We have 140 crores people, 135 crores. Many times the statistics also don't work, but I think huge population, with huge diversity and heterogeneity. Therefore, you name any segment, people are there. Even if you make a car for 1 lakh, there are lakhs of people sitting at that segment. You make a car for 1 crore also, there are lakhs of people, which means there is a huge market orientation. There is a huge heterogeneity in the market. That is the beauty of India. Therefore, all it is required is you make a quality product at a right price, which is going to really make value to the customer. I think that's all is very important. Therefore, from this perspective, manufacturing is going to grow leaps and bounds. And third important point, today the whole world is going into a digital transformation. The Internet of Things, the 3D printing, machine learning, artificial intelligence, quantum mechanics, blockchain, they're all going to form a new integrated manufacturing. Therefore, the opportunities are plenty, plethora of opportunities. And Indian people, by virtue of their very good brains, they can definitely rule the world in the next 2 or 3 decades. And if you really look at most of the engineers from NASA, Mr. Choko will agree with me, are from India. And most of the software engineers are from India. Therefore, there's a huge opportunity for Indian engineers. And why engineering? See, engineering is the foundation of human evolution. Today, the whole world is becoming a global village where things are getting connected. So, from a societal point of view, from an environmental point of view, from a macroeconomic point of view, and also from a sustainability point of view, we need innovations and creativity seamlessly. And I think that is where the Indian engineers can really create a big difference. And whatever we learn up to 12th standard in the basic sciences, from the engineering, you are going to apply those sciences for a noble, greater cause. Therefore, a lot of applications are involved. So my request to students is, engineering is a great opening. In fact, you can branch out to millions of opportunities, be it on the electronics, computer science, mechanical engineering, or aerospace, civil aviation, biomedical, biotechnology, infrastructure, civil engineering, infrastructural challenges. I think the country is going to grow leaps and bounds in infrastructure. So all these things are plethora of opportunities. I would say sky is not the limit. Therefore, engineering is a great opportunity. All my request to students is, don't look at engineering as engineering. Engineering, you have to apply the engineering principles, which means it is not E is equal to MC square. You have to understand the principles from back to basics. Don't get into the mugging syndrome. Then you should apply these principles for the greater cause of the society, for the greater cause of the humankind. I think that is the key that the student should understand. And problem-solving skills, as said by Mr. Chako, I think this gives a great opportunity for understanding the problems and providing solutions which are cost-effective, sustainable, and value-adding to the customers. Therefore, always from a customer perspective, this can throw a plethora of opportunities. Today, you look at the startup world. India already crossed 40,000 startups, all coming through innovations and creativity. And we have already got 38, 40 unicorns, more than $1 billion. Therefore, I think the engineers of today are very lucky because you have the big opportunities, digital transformation, the whole world is connected, and knowledge is infinite. And you have a rich experiential learning across the globe, and everything is available at fingertips. Therefore, I think always I say the best of the brains in the world, Albert Einstein, people say used 7% of his brain, somebody said 2%, then where are we? I think it is an infinite plethora of opportunities today available. And I think all of the students, today's generation are very lucky. With this note, I leave it for further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There are a few questions here, but I would like to hear from Mr. Pattabhiram as the HR person. What exactly do you look for when a student comes in for an interview or when he comes in for placement? As an HR person, what do you look for in the students?
அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். So a very good morning to everyone, and thanks again for having me as part of this panel. A bit of a personal note to start with. I belong to the first batch of Sona College of Technology, and an additional trivia there. My dad belongs to the first batch of Garage of Polytechnic. So you have such a strong family lineage with this great institution. So thanks for that question, madam, and a big hi to my fellow panelists also. I think just to summarize what Mr. Choko and Mr. Parasram has been saying, on one side, there is a huge potential in the market, right? The jobs are there, the economy is booming. There is a need for engineers to create products. There is more and more need for engineers that's going to happen in the next few years. On the other side, we heard Mr. Choko saying how an institution, a great institution like Tyagarajar or Sona, has invested in student development, not just curriculum development, but the holistic development that needs to happen when it comes to professional courses. Now, from my perspective, just to pick it on from Ms. Sujata's question, right? What I would like to share with you some of my own personal experiences as HR, because when you're in the HR field, you get a lot of inquiries coming from parents, right? They would want to call you and talk in terms of what is the best career to choose for their kids and what is the best specialization to choose for their kids and all that. And believe me, these conversations are not easy, but I try to keep it simple. So what I tell them is the answer to all those questions that you're asking me is with you and your son or daughter. Initially, they'll be surprised. Then I'll tell them, see, in your conversation, you had been telling me that you want to choose a career for your son, you want to choose a career for your daughter. But how do we do that? Where is that decision making that your son or daughter needs to exhibit that is coming in? In all good faith, as parents, we want to make or choose those careers for our kids. But how many times do we go back and check if that is a field that our son or daughter would like to pursue, or do they have interest in this? Now, there is a reason why I insist or ask this question to the parents, right? Because when someone is interested in a particular area, they also invest more time. When you invest more time, you build your skills. When you build your skills, that's when you become good or best in what you're doing, right? And as engineers, like what Mr. Parasaman has been saying, you need to be at your best to leverage on the opportunities that the market is providing. Like what Mr. Choku was saying, if you need to be at your best or you need to be good to leverage on the opportunities the college is providing, right? And let me throw some statistics here also as to why I say that. On an average, every year, there are 10 lakh engineers coming out of India, right? Across 7,000 plus institutes, right? And one of the most interesting statistics there is, of those 10 lakh engineers, through various research, it's found that only 20 to 25% have employability skills, which means skills either technical or non-technical that will help them to land a job, right? So that is probably what, 2 lakh or 2.5 lakhs out of those 10 lakh people whom we can say have that employability skills. Now let's put this against the number of job opportunities available for engineers, right? It's on an average, it keeps fluctuating depending on the economy, somewhere around 3 to 4 lakhs in a year, right? So which means if your 20-25% are employable, bulk of these 3 or 4 lakh jobs would go to those 2.5 lakh people, right? So the remaining 8 lakh people out of the 10 lakh in a year need to now compete for this 1.5 lakh jobs. That is left after those people with employability get those 2.5 lakh jobs. So the question here is, as a son or a daughter, as a student, am I in that 20%? Am I in that 25%? If I'm there, the chances of me getting a job in the field that I want is much higher. Of course, there are other opportunities like research and all that. I'm specifically talking about job opportunities, given that Ms. Sujata asked me this question. So that is the statistic in front of us. So if we need to be in that 20%, if our son or daughter need to be in that 20% or 25%, they need to be invested in what they are doing. And they will be invested in what they're doing if they have interest in what they're doing. And the starting point for that would be from the parents who need to now allow them to make those decisions. Of course, as a parent, provide them a lot of options, right? There are 50 plus engineering specializations in India, right? The conservative estimate. How many times do we go through all those options before figuring out where my son or daughter would be interested to pursue something around among that? Have those conversations. Then comes the part, once you have chosen the specialization, choose the right institute. And a great institute like what Mr. Choko was mentioning can provide a lot of impetus to the development. So there is an interest in the individual, there is a development opportunity, and the third piece would then be the employment opportunities, which Mr. Parasraman has been saying. So all the three need to come together. So that's the reason I said initially, when parents ask me this question, the first part of that link starts in the family. It's with that parent, it's with that son or daughter who needs to make the decision. Then comes the college responsibility. And the third piece is only the economy or the industry's responsibilities, right? And you never know if 40% people are employable or 50% is employable, then the average jobs on a year, engineering jobs would rise from 3 lakh to 5 lakh, because the industry has requirement all the time. It's just a question of, do I have the talent to fill that requirement? So given this context, let me just go back to what Ms. Sujata has been asking. So what do we look at people when they join organizations? Not much. Come with a clean attitude. What that means is have an appetite to learn from seniors, learn from your team members, right? Because you are learning a lot of concepts in the college. Now, when you join a company, it can be a service industry, it can be a manufacturing industry. There, you need to relearn or even continue your learning there. So don't lose that ability. So learning ability is one of the important critical aspects we look at right from the interview stage. Second is about the attitude. Is someone showing those signs where he or she can be mentored? Are they open to listen? Are they open to learn from others? That's the second skill that we look at. And the third skill, primarily like what some of the other panelists mentioned, is also about the communication. Am I able to talk? See, communication, don't look at it as fluency. That's two different things. It's about as simple as, am I able to convey my thoughts in a way that the other person could understand? Am I able to convey it in a manner that the other person doesn't get hurt by what I'm saying? Simple, that's it. And if these aspects are there, that's more than enough, because the technical training or the on-the-job training is definitely invested by the company. So we don't have to worry about it. So this is a context behind why I often mention to the parents when they ask this question, all the answers to your questions about your son, daughter, or opportunities, or what specialization they need to is within your family. It starts within the family, right? So with that initial note, I'll now pass it back to Ms. Sujata. I'm happy to take any more questions as well. Thank you.
So actually, I have a follow-up, Patari, on that. So a lot of parents come in and they make so much of this choice, like, should I choose this, that, which department to choose? And then they say, but when it comes to placement, a lot of our civil and civil engineering students and electrical engineering students, they all up for CTS or Cognizant or Infosys, any of these companies will come and recruit here. So why is this sudden change, and how is it from the industry perspective? So,
yeah. And probably I can also add something more to what Mr. Chokko was saying. At different points, we also want to evaluate what we want to do. There's no harm in it, right? See, I have seen my own batchmates, then a lot of people who join companies where they join an IT company and they want to now change their tracks, which is perfectly fine. But most important thing is, whenever we are making that decision for our career, have I evaluated all the options, right? Am I convinced that this is the right thing for me to do? Those kind of thinking and decision making and discussion needs to happen much more at the individual level. Maybe at this point, when they're in 12th standard, students may not have the maturity. That's why the parents support a lot more. But once after, say, 4 years or 5 years, when they are in the position where they complete their UG and they're moving to a PG, the decision making need to move more and more towards the candidate or the individual there.
Thank you so much. So we have a few questions here. The first question is, one student has asked, how do I prepare for the board exam? So I think that we will pass up for now. We will come back to that later. So what are my opportunities?
So what I will take that, ma'am. So one of the things we do, in college, we don't have board exams because we accept only the 12th standard students coming in after graduation. But perhaps I will switch it as how do we enable students to crack interviews? So a lot of, because there's a different pattern. Infosys, when they come to the campus, they have a more emphasis on writing, for example. Cognizant has more in terms of soft skills or something like that. So each company has its own methodology of how to crack the exams. So what we have done is through Hire Me, which is an educational startup that I founded. We have something called Round Zero. So before you actually get into the actual interview, so we give all the mock questions and answers. And so we prepare the students for that particular examination that they're going to be interview assessment. So that's how we help the students get acclimatized to the questions that these companies will be asking. So And that's the preparation which starts. So, thank you.
Okay, so we were talking, we actually finished with that COVID, started with the COVID, how you should be prepared during COVID, what changes that were brought in because of COVID. Now, I have another question, we have been talking there's a lot of student expectation, but then they come with a lot of expectations. I don't know what, probably dreams, probably imagined successes, or they probably don't have an idea, but they do come. But then when they see the reality is completely different for many of these students, because you've all touched on that, but it's still for a 17-year-old who's getting into college. I think most of them have no idea what their future or career is going to be. And how do these students prepare for the hardcore world, for for the world that doesn't have enough space for their dreams, or probably it has a lot of space for their dreams, like there have been lots of others who just had their dreams, who come into a college and created a world for themselves. But as students of engineer, what do you expect in the students when they come into your college, or for that matter any college?
So that's a very good question here. So what we've also realized the same thing. So seeing the students, because their aspirations are very high. They say they want to go for a job, 4 lakhs, 6 lakhs, 10 lakhs, whatever. That's the aspiration. But the input that they put for getting there is not there. So that's the gap what you were talking about. So what we are doing is that we come up with a product in Hire Me called Hire Me Gold. And so the Hire Me Gold is, how do I bridge the aspiration? So if I want a job in a product company, which will get me 6 lakhs or 10 lakhs, because that's the product companies get you there. So what is the level of thinking that you need? Or if I need to get a job at a very 6 lakhs paying company in mechanical engineer in Coimbatore, for example, for that company, that's my aim, what is it that I need? So what we have is Hire Me Gold is a learning management system where you set the aspirations, and then depending on where I want to get, the questions for that subject will be there. There's something called Bloom's taxonomy, which there are different levels of thinking. So there are some things that you need to think out of the box to come for that solution. The problem is there given to you. So that's the level 5 thinking. So, but level 4 will be a complicated question. Level 3 will be a normal question. So in a normal exam, you will get level 3 type. So, but if you're ready to stretch to level 4 and 5, that's where the higher order of thinking comes in. So this is what we are trying to do through this. And plus the fact that we have these specialized laboratories. So be it for automation, or be it for robotics, or be it in mechanical. So we actually have these different programs, like Mr. Parasuraman spoke about 3D printing or something like that. So what is it that you envision yourself to be? So then you are able to do hands-on job here. So to step up to that, because otherwise it becomes a big leap at the 4th year. So right from the 1st year, we're trying to orient themselves, like what Mr. Patabi was talking about, like, how do you communicate better? So all these things matter. So you may be a great engineer, but if you don't know how to communicate, it doesn't work. So the entire training program, all of them literally starts from the 1st year onwards as to where you want to be. So that's why we are looking at 3 career paths. So one is a career as a job, one is a career in research, and or higher education, or wherever, from that regard. And the third one is to become an entrepreneur. So I'll come to that later. So we have some exciting things on entrepreneurship as well.
So here,
Madam, I will just take a
Yes,
minute
sir.
to expand a little bit of what Mr. Chokku said.
Yes, sir.
See, I also happen to be the chairman of the advisory committee for this new education policy from the corporate side as a part of Indo-Universal Education. So today we are trying to roll out this new education policy in 14 engineering colleges across the country. And we have selected 40 students from each institute. We are trying to tailor-make a program. The whole purpose is enjoyable, life-oriented, practical approach engineering. It is not, as rightly said by Mr. Chokku, we are trying to focus on many other softer issues team building, communication skills, value for systems, ethics, corporate governance, teamwork, many such things we are trying to inculcate. In fact, the first time I tried to introduce quality circles, maybe in the first time in the country, maybe first time in the world, I would say, in the engineering curriculum. So we are trying to educate, train the lot of professors and lecturers across the country. I also happen to be the former chairman of Quality Circle Forum of Karnataka, long time back. So I always believe that just soft skills. In fact, my advice to students is, when you really pass out as an engineer, when you work in the real organizations, as you grow up, let me tell you, your success rate, 99% comes out from your soft skills. Whatever you learn in the engineering colleges is only a foundation. Today, everything is available in the net. Experts are available. But the challenge is managing people, managing critical issues, communication across boundaries, across regions, across cultures. In fact, I have worked in Toyota Motor Group for almost 23 years. I had the opportunity to work in Toyota Japan also, way back in 1999-2000 in Toyota Motor Corporation. So I've seen the cultures across the world, various companies. I visited these plants across 23, 24 countries globally. You see, your ability to communicate, bring the whole world under one consensus. I think this is the biggest learning that you should all have. Don't worry about E is equal to MC square or, Faraday's laws of motion and all those things. So you have super confidence in yourself and understand the basics. In fact, I always ask the standard question to all the engineering students. When I interview, I interviewed more than tens of thousands of students. I ask them very simple question. What is the longest stick you can place on a cubicle 1 meter room? In fact, to my surprise, 99% of the people don't answer this. It's a very simple 10 standard trigonometry. On the diagonal is root 2, then your vertical, then it is root 3, 1.732. But they literally get confused. And I also ask them, please draw the 3 views of a cricket ball, including the stretchers. They completely fumble. All I'm trying to say is, you should see the big picture. I think that's the most important thing. When you look at Earth from a horizontal distance, somebody said it is rectangular, square, or round shape. But once you go 1,000 kilometers above the sea level, you should be able to see a beautiful blue ball, and you should be able to put it in your pocket. I think that is what all the students should look at. See, don't get worried. I think enjoy the learning, understand the concepts, don't mug up, and look at more practical aspects. I think that way you can make a huge difference to the lives of people and to your own life. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Actually, both of you are talking about the same thing, where you're talking about how important it is to see yourself as a human and not just as a product from the assembly line. What has been happening is most students have thought they are just from the assembly line, they just get into work. I think that's the problem here. That's why most engineers are not employable. So here is somebody who has asked a question: how will engineering help if he wants to start a startup? I think Mr. Chokalingam is the right person to answer this.
Yeah, so there are tremendous opportunities here. So especially in becoming an entrepreneur today, which has never been so much ever in the history of the world, where so technically people with money were the ones starting businesses. Today, people with ideas and the people with a vision, money is chasing them. So it's an opportune time. And then right at Sona, so we also have a MSME enabled startup center, entrepreneurial center. So we provide training. There is an ecosystem around, and there is funding. 25 lakhs, 50 lakhs, up to 1 crore is possible through this MSME incubator that we have. And another exciting thing, which I'm sharing with you, is that we've also going to be soon starting up a collaboration center with a leading incubator, which will be a marquee name, and they will come here, and then the incubations already happened in Sona. They will take them to the next level, And this is a very, very high, very marquee name, and very internationally renowned incubation center. So they will come in and take this. So those are the opportunities available. And plus the fact that we have an ecosystem of research also helps the entrepreneur, because very, very often when you start a startup, you'll be facing new problems. So, and all these researchers, with having an ecosystem of 250 PhDs in one campus, which is probably outside of IIT, we are probably one of the few institutions to have ecosystem of 250 PhDs in one campus. So they have a lot of contribution to come up with different types of research angles to help the entrepreneur as well. So
I will just add a few more points to what Mr. Chakku said, madam. In fact, at Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, where I happen to be the president, we have a very active startup cell, which is a part of Young BCIC. And today, I think for a country like India, as I said, we have already 40,000 plus startups. And today, the Honorable Prime Minister started the Startup India way back in 2014. I think today the opportunities for startups are innumerable. In fact, today the venture capitalists are available, ideas are in plenty, and many organizations, many universities, many colleges are incubating these startups. In fact, from BCIC, we have collaborated with Amrita College, and we have opened an incubation center. Therefore, I think huge millions and millions of ideas are available. And let me tell you, I think the startup, the beauty is innovation and creativity. But I'll tell you an example. In United States, there was a big conference going on how to dispose the ice cream cups. There was a big conference going on. A beggar was walking on the road, and he saw that conference. Out of sheer hunger, he said, "Why don't I eat?" That is how the wafer cones were invented. So the beauty of this startup is, in fact, IT is another example. IT, today it is a 2,000 crore company founded by Mr. Mustafa. I think he is from IIM Bangalore. In fact, very interesting, from a very, very poor background. His father is a coolie. I read a lot about him and how they started. And today, ID batter, Italy and dosa has become a real landmark for every family. And today, they are a 2,000 plus crore company. You can take Zomato or Dunzo or, Ola. I think all these companies, innovation and creativity, you don't need a big idea, but you need a breakthrough idea and you need the right supporting system. Therefore, the engineering creates that kind of opportunity. In fact, I was at the Berkeley campus where I was very stunned to see a lot of Nobel laureates, 80 plus years of age. They're all working in the many industries, and they're also sitting in the campus and collaborating with many industries and many startup companies. Therefore, India, the connect between academia and industry is still a big challenge. And I think startup is one bridge that can fill that gap. And for a country like India, especially for students, I think you have innumerable ideas. In fact, I always talk about the Johari window. The first quadrant, which says, I know, that is self-confidence. Second quadrant, I know that I don't know, that is ignorance. And that is humility. Third quadrant, I don't know that I know, that is latent talent. And the fourth quadrant, I don't know that I don't know, that is ignorance. I think this startup is opening out the third quadrant and fourth quadrant. I don't know that I know, and I don't know that I don't know. I think once we are able to catalyze that kind of talents and energies, I think this is going to be a great opportunity for India. And the startup 40,000 should definitely, according to me, double in the next 3 years or so, and it should quadruple in the next decade. So there's a huge opportunity for engineering colleges and engineers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I have a small question here for Mr. Pattabhiraman. It is all nice to say that we are going to have, somebody wants to have a startup. But again, here it's about human skills. So what kind of human skills, what kind of skills should a person have in order to be a success in a startup? It's nice to have an idea. It's nice to present it. It's great to get funding. But beyond that, where do you go? I mean, where is it that the student who starts a startup suddenly collapses and is not able to pick up or make a success of it? From the HR perspective. Mr. Pattabhiraman. Hello.
I don't see him on camera, ma'am. So yeah.
Okay, so you can take the question, sir.
Yes, I think it's like Mr. Parasuraman said rightly. Yeah, Patabi, did you hear the question or?
No, sorry, I had a unstable internet connection. Can you please repeat that, madam? I can.
Yeah, so the question was, it's a lot of students are thinking of startups. They do start, they do well, they get funding, and then suddenly one fine day they just disappear. The startup has collapsed and something has gone wrong. If the idea is great, you get the funding, you're able to sustain for 2-3 years, but then suddenly one day you collapse. What's happening? Where
Yeah.
is the human skill, the interpersonal skill, or whatever soft skill? Where is it been lost?
Yeah, well, that's a very important question that you're asking about. Because if you look at like what Mr. Parastan, Mr. Choko has been saying, there are huge opportunities, right? So when it comes to entrepreneurship, there are three primary stakeholders here. One is the entrepreneur himself or herself. Then there is the company that the entrepreneur is trying to come up with, or a product or idea of the organization, and then there is customer, right? Now, all the three need to go together. When it comes to entrepreneur, one of the most important aspects is what is the reason for someone to start something on their own, right? What is the purpose that is driving that decision? Especially in this webinar, if you are discussing this, potentially there are also people who would like to have a startup immediately after their engineering, right? So then your purpose in terms of why you still want to do a startup immediately after engineering, why not after some period after you work? If your purpose is so strong that you think now is the right time to start, that's all fine, but have your purpose in order. The reason is entrepreneurship is never a linear line. It has its own ups and downs. So when you're hitting a trough, it's your purpose that will guide you as to why you still need to be on the track to as an entrepreneur and not look at some better or easier options like say a full-time job and all that. So how can you stay the course as an entrepreneur? And that is decided by the purpose. Now, the second important thing is when it comes to the customer, the second player there, what specific problem I'm trying to solve there? Could be that there are other players also would be there, like what Mr. Parasuraman said. Maybe there is a competitor to ID. It's the same problem that we are trying to solve. But can I still give a certain variation to the way how I'm solving that problem? And what was very interesting for me when I started my own journey 3 months back is, while on one side technology has improved or enhanced so much in terms of artificial intelligence, machine learning, everything. On the other side, like what both the panelists mentioned, the people aspect side is still largely unattended. And what I mean by that is globally, and this is a statistic that is very concerning, less than 5% of the workforce that are currently working can literally, or you can call them as being eligible leaders, which means they have leadership skills to lead organizations or lead departments. Now, just imagine that's a very startling statistic, which means if the remaining 95%, if we can't convert more and more people in that 95% as better leaders, we are facing an acute leadership issue, which will translate sooner into a business issue. Now, this is the problem I thought I need to take it and try to solve or give my best to solve this. Now, this problem has been there for many years in spite of all the technological advancements, right? So that's the second piece there. What is it that we are trying to solve and all that? Now, the third important thing when it comes to the organization of the company that I'm building itself. Now, here it's very important as an entrepreneur that I'm very clear how I want to structure my company, right? When do I need to scale up? Now, these and what kind of decision or investments that I need to make initially? When do I look at a seed capital? When I look at the series funding, right? So these kind of, or should I even go for all these? That a lot of that depends to like what Mr. Parasuraman said to the decision making, right? What is it I want my company to do? What is the issue that I'm trying to solve? So all the three need to come together. A lot of times, what the research says is that when people start an entrepreneurship journey, they're very excited when they start, but they don't hold on to the course because they go wrong in one of these or many of these three parameters. And that's the reason, while 40,000 is the number of startups we have, it'll be interesting to see how many sustain after 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. And that statistic is not very encouraging. Less than 10% startups make the cut, literally. So those are some of the points from my end here.
Thank you,
so, Madam, if I were to add to that, like
yes,
my personal experience, when I first started V Technologies as an IT services company, So we started on a B2, we started servicing on a B2B market. So we were servicing the middlemen in America for 10 years. So which was going well. But then we said that we want to go into a B2C. We want to be the only Indian healthcare company which does B2C directly to the hospitals. So we brought in a team in the US, very senior team. And that time, my clients, 50% of my clients said, if you are going B2C, we're going to move from you. And I lost 50% of my business. But I doubled my expenditure. So 2010 to 2013, 14 were nightmare days for me. So if you reflect back today, I don't know how I pulled it off, but that's how we pulled it off. It was a nightmare, but that's exactly like what Patavi said. It's the willingness to fail and the perseverance to overcome them. So,
exactly.
So those are the things. So we survived that, and today we are the only Indian multinational healthcare services company in the US today, and we are in the best places to work, both in America and India. We are the only company in the world which is in the best places to work in healthcare in America and in India. But if we had not done what we did that day, and closed our shop down because we lost 50% of our business, in expenditure came out. So that's the mantra. So how to believe on your vision and keep going ahead.
Yeah, and I can add one more thing to that. We all admire the Australian cricket team, right? Just to keep this topic a bit lighter. And one of the things that the Australian or the Brazilian teams of the famous teams that were at its peak did is they had a terrific fighting spirit. Now, a few years back, there was this research that happened again, and they were trying to understand what is that one competency if someone can build can help them to be a better professional at the workplace, a better human in the society, or even a great entrepreneur. And like what Mr. Chokko was saying, it came out that resilience is that number one competency. And resilience, we can even say, even in our school days, right? When we fail in certain subject, that's fine, right? You can still improve. But do I have the courage and confidence to bounce back? The same thing is so important for an entrepreneur. The same thing is so important even if someone is looking at research opportunities. You might not get your paper published the first time, but can you still bounce back, right? And this resilience is such a critical competency. And if there are students in this program watching this, do that early in your career. It's much more easier. And like what Mr. Chokko said, you never know when you would need this. The years between 2012 and 14, probably Mr. Chokko has exhibited that more and more, right? And that's a critical competency to have.
See, in fact, in Toyota, we say bad news first. Always the failure is a stepping stone to success.
Yes.
It reminds me of Thomas Alva Edison. 993 attempts he failed. In 994th attempt, he invented the magic lamp, which lights the billions of lives all over the world. So his friend asked him in his 993rd attempt, you should be a big fool, you're not learning your lessons. So Alva Edison said, in all the 993 attempts, I learned how not to make a bulb. In 994th attempt, he really gave the breakthrough. And today, I think rest is a history. Yeah. I think resilience is the foundation. And organizations which are really individuals also. In fact, every stage is a learning curve. See, every failure, every learning. In fact, COVID, many organizations learned several things. In fact, in Toyota, we used to have one conference this time in Singapore, next time in Philippines, next month, following month in Australia. Last 2 years, I have not traveled abroad. We saved billions of dollars across the organization. You know, all work from home, virtual simulations, video conferences, video auditing. You know, many things happen, and these reflections are permanent. It is not now, it is permanent. So I think every opportunity is every failure or every challenge is an opportunity. Thank you.
I agree with you. Yeah, it's true. But we should accept that it's a challenge, and we should also accept that there are certain limitations to overcoming a challenge. Yeah. So here is one person who's asked something about, they want to know something about robotics being offered in Sona College. And maybe Mr. Chakalingam, you can take this question on what is Sona College, what is it offering in terms of robotics and automation?
Sure. Yes, yes. So there are definitely, and then I'll have Mr. Parasuraman also talk about, because they are a big user of robots and automation. So, so Sona, because the new age of manufacturing is all about robotics technology. So we've embarked on this journey a couple of years ago with investing in robotics, as well as we have an automation lab as well, laboratory. And there are two parts to this. So one is robots, other is the bots. So if you're looking at it from a computer science point of view and IT and that kind of thing, it's bots. And so there is a company actually inside Sona which is working on bots, which is equivalent to Automation Anywhere. The product is called Bot Hedge, which is developed by us actually at V Technologies. So be it Automation Anywhere or UiPath, it's a bot which is ready to be deployed with artificial intelligence impregnated into that. And from robotics, so we have the laboratory. We're expanding the laboratory as we speak this year, and investing with getting up centers of excellence and those kind of things in new age automation. And there's already a automation lab which is going to get more and more enhanced. And what we are trying to do is we are going to start super specialization as an additional specialization to what you're doing. So you could do mechanical engineering and do a program on robotics, or you can do the reverse, or you could do computer science and then do a robotics program. So because this is what the new educational policy is talking about, having different course strengths. So one of the things we find is when we train mechanical engineers in Python, what we did, that enabled last year, just the fact that they learned Python got 20 students in Infosys, and that's what they were asking for. So on a similar basis, so we want collaborations among engineering industry, engineering education to come about. So where I'm going with it is, like, you can take electrical engineering and take robotics, because then it gives you a different mindset in that. You take robotics engineering and you can take AI. So these are all different flavors that for each specialization, we are getting in 6 different programs today as advanced learning, perhaps a diploma, perhaps a certificate. So wherever you want to go, you go with it. And with more and more Industry 4.0 becoming the mantra for the industry, I'm sure Mr. Parasuraman will address that. So robotics engineering is getting to be more and more critical in the world today. And because you can sit in Salem and operate a robot in Tokyo or Osaka or wherever, Kyoto, where the factories are. And that's the ability that the world is now getting open to, especially post-COVID, where this opportunity comes in. Yeah, Mr. Parasuraman. You're on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Chokulingam. Jovially, in Japan, one of the plants where there is only one person and a dog in one of the global plants, and the people asked, what is the purpose of the person? The purpose of that person is single man is to feed the dog, and the purpose of the dog is to ensure that nobody enters the factory. In a jovial note, see, today, what is happening for a country like India? We have to look at the big picture. See, today, the labor costs, when you compare India, Thailand, or Indonesia, or Philippines, or the emerging countries, or South America, we are definitely very competitive. But our labor costs have increased over a period of years. And going forward, Indian inflation, labor inflation is going at almost 10-11% year on year. This is unprecedented. If you look at a country like Japan, it is negative inflation, it's deflation. Therefore, the labor cost is drastically increasing. And in the next 5 years or so, India will never be competitive in terms of a labor market. If you really look at the developing countries, we will lose the advantage. Therefore, I think it's very important that automation comes into picture. That is point number one. And secondly, if you really look at a country like India, where there is still a big challenge of strikes, agitations, and IR problem, industrial relations. Therefore, with more number of people, workforce, I think this challenge is there. Now there is a tendency to move towards semi-automation and full automation. I think that is the latest trend that is happening. The biggest advantage is unmanned factories. less number of people, less number of problems. But this robotics, the development itself is really taking a beautiful shape because of the integrated technologies. See, today, the machine learning and artificial intelligence added to the other digital platforms or quantum mechanics. I think this robotics is assuming a new dimension. And first of all, we are also looking at in Japanese karakuri. Karakuri means low-cost automation. And it's called a circus to be on a macro platform using gravity and using zero power. How do you move this thing? So this evolution is happening, but robotics is going to really take India to the next decade because this transformation is happening in India with the increase in manufacturing GDP and because of the problems of labor cost and also the other related the industrial relation issues. This is going to really rule the world. Having said that, definitely the technology per se in India, now we have got many companies setting up in India and they were able to get access to the global technologies. So the cobots are also very popular. Cobots is a combination of human and robots in combination, which means they can work in synchrony. So I could see a lot of assembly plants using cobot. And now there is a lot of automation moving towards robots in the years to come. So this is going to be a very interesting transformation. And in this area, I'm sure a lot of engineering colleges like Sona College of Engineering will have to play a very active role. And I was also talking to a few people. There are going to be courses fully on robotics in the BE, which is coming very shortly.
We have that, Mr. Parasuraman. Thanks. We have the mechatronics course has a full program on robotics. So, yeah, thank you.
Oh, wonderful. I think I have to really congratulate Sona College. In fact, I visited that college a few times. Every time I visit, the learning has been unbelievable. The kind of infrastructure, the kind of creativity, innovation. I was very surprised to see 3 Japanese teachers full-time employed in Sona. Hats off to you, sir.
Thank you.
Really, I was really, I don't know what to say because those 3 people, full-time Japanese working in Sona College to promote Japanese language. And many students from Sona have gone to Japan already. And they're able to talk excellent Japanese. I think they are definitely able to look at things more proactively. I think under a very strong leadership. And I think this kind of soft infrastructure support is also very important to take the engineering institutions to a global platform. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Parasuraman. So I know you highlighted Japanese. I think so. I'll just say that, like, one of the things I think both you as well as Mr. Patabi had stressed was the age of India and the age of the world. So Japan is probably the oldest nation in the world, where mostly old people. So they require a lot of help, especially in engineers. And that's one of the reasons why we are the largest campus to teach Japanese anywhere in India today. And because we see a future. And for all the parents who are thinking, Japan, if you are thinking, Nane Japan, so he's doing a PhD in University of Tokyo. So it's a very safe country, much safer than even many places in India, for example. So a very clean country, and there's a lot of scope for future. So that's one of the reasons why we've invested in Japanese heavily. So, thank you. Yeah. And luckily, the students are also, because the salary levels, especially like 18, 20, 21 lakhs package, the students are going. So it's a big leap from India to there. So thank you.
Yeah. Madam, with your permission, I would like to take one question from the chat window that I saw, because that's related to the topic that we are discussing. I don't exactly recollect the question, but it asks, good engineering education, is it about IITs or what is it, right? That was a question that I saw in the chat window. Now just to again talk about the statistics here, right? I was mentioning about the 10 lakh engineers coming out every year, and it's 5% or less than that is what the IITs or similar such institutes are providing as an output, which means it's a premium education, right, at the end of the day. So which means what it means, like what Mr. Parasuraman has been saying, the bulk of the load in terms of creating that engineering pool needs to happen with colleges like Sona, right? And that's what it means, because there is a big gap between the 50,000 and the 10 lakh output that's coming in. And that's where colleges like Sona or universities or institutions like Sona has a much bigger responsibility to create that ecosystem. And I'm so glad to see the kind of updates that Mr. Chokku has been providing. And definitely Sona is on the right track. So thought I will reiterate this in relation to the question that someone had asked. Yeah.
One more question coming from the chat box. I thought I should answer that question. Now, what is the scope of mechanical engineers with the growth of artificial intelligence and machine learning? I think a very, very relevant question. I congratulate that student who has asked this question. In fact, yesterday I was talking to some of the academicians, and I'm also in the board of governing council of few of the institutes. So what is happening is, unfortunately, courses like mechanical engineering, the interest is coming down, and computer science, artificial intelligence, and information sciences is going up. And very, very unfortunate to see the kind of capacity utilization in the country in these courses is less than 20-30%. It's very, very disheartening to me. Please understand, mechanical engineering is a foundation. It is the bedrock of the entire engineering, be it thermodynamics or linkages, chain mechanisms, applied mechanics. They're all material sciences. They're all fundamentals on which everything is built. It is something like a CNC machine. See, we always love to work on CNC machines. Today's engineers, the G0, G91, G28, X0, Y0, Z0, M19 is the programming language. I started my career as a CNC programmer. It's very easy. But please don't mistake, the basics have not changed. The foundation is still mechanical engineering. And that growth has to happen. If mechanical engineering ceases to exist, then it is like a flower without fragrance. It is artificial. Therefore, all this artificial intelligence, machine learning, all those things exist based on the basic mechanical engineering platform. So my request to students, don't neglect those courses. Please take mechanical engineering, specialize in computer science in the masters, or do them electives and masters. Today, thanks to a new educational policy, we have huge flexibility. You can choose courses across the domain. Therefore, try to choose more selectives on artificial intelligence, machine learning, or robotics, 3D printing, or blockchain, but have the mechanical engineering base. I think that is my advice to students. So the fundamentals have not changed.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Parasuraman. So, very interesting. Same point that I was raising up to Tamil Nadu Education Minister day before yesterday in Chennai. So the problem we are facing for the entire audience here is that TCS, Infosys, Cognizant each go out and say that they need 35,000, 40,000 engineers coming in, and that is getting highlighted. But the core engineering industries like Toyota, for example, Mr. Parasuraman and all of them, they are not coming and telling how many engineers they will require in the next 5-10 years. So that is the problem. And the government, for example, is announced that there are 1 lakh crores worth of infrastructure projects in the pipeline. 1 lakh crores. How many engineers will that require? So that is what I told the minister. I said, நீங்க வந்து civil engineering எத்தனை engineers வேணும் அப்படின்னு நீங்க highlight பண்ணணும். PWD departmentல மட்டும் நீங்க எடுத்துக்கிட்டீங்கன்னா 10,000-20,000 engineers definitely required. So only in one department. So like that, there are many other departments, and then similarly electrical too. So how many engineers they are going to take through civil service to whatever in opportunities. So there is tremendous opportunities for that. And Mr. Parasuraman alluded to that. We are becoming a services country, and with our population of 1.3 billion people, we cannot become a services country. In America, because they have lost manufacturing to China. We can't afford to do that. We have to become a manufacturing industry. For the sake of India, we need more mechanical engineers. For the sake of India, we need more civil engineers. For the sake of India, we need electrical engineers. This India the engineer varati IT engineer vechikku India ஓட்ட முடியாது.
தமிழ்ல சொல்லல, சட்டில இருந்தா தான் ஆப்பையில ஏறணும். The சட்டிங்கிறது தான் மெக்கானிக்கல் இன்ஜினியரிங் actually. So the foundation. So I think that's very rightly put, sir. Thank you.
So somebody had asked about civil engineering. You have touched on that also. Thank you so much. So now this will actually lead to another. People want to do engineering. The students are interested in doing engineering, but the financial aspect. What happens to a student who has the marks, who has the capability, who has the interest, but doesn't have the money? So, are colleges willing to offer scholarship? Uh, Mr. Chokalingam, would you answer this question?
Yes, yeah. So we in fact we are offering close to 2 crores worth of scholarship in Sona itself, and so we have an examination that we are going to be conducting. Actually, it is happening now, and perhaps it will also come back in another week, where it's an all India entrance test for the scholarships, and then the toppers would get free education, and then the other people would get a tapered thing. And then there is also a lot of scholarships available called Pragati Scholarship for women. And women engineers are being sought after today like ever before. Especially the women who are listening today, the sunrise has been COVID for a lot of women today, because you can become women engineers, and because the work from home opportunity is coming, you can stay at home, and even if you're in a rural part of India or wherever you are, you can stay at home and still work. And the Pragati scholarship given by the government of India gives 50,000 rupees per year for the students to come and then learn. So those are the types of scholarships that we are looking, and we have got a separate team now to address the different scholarships depending on the community. There are also community-based scholarships given by different societies, the community associations. So we have an entire team working on it. So please come in and talk to us. And we also have for PG as well as PhDs. This is a free program in Sona. So literally, so you become you become a PG student, and if you're involved in the research programs of Sona, literally the education is free. So that's how we encourage research here, because we are one of the few institutions to have 36 R&D centers, literally in every branch available. So that gives the students the opportunity as well.
Thank you, sir. When you come to research now, what is the scope for research in your college? And for an engineer, does it make sense to go for research at all? Or does he stop with startup, or probably not take up a job, but then start on his own later?
So that actually the scope for research is tremendous. Yeah. So and the Kasturi Rangan committee in the new education policy. I mean, all the parents and the students who are listening now need to know that the student who are entering now will become a graduate in 2026. So by which time the new education policy will come in, and at some point. So research is becoming a foundation, because the new education policy says that engineering will become a 3-year program. And if you want to become a 4-year program, the 4th year is in research, because the government realizes that we need people to think, because a lot of people in India are not thinking. Research enables you to think. And that is why the 4th year of engineering is recommended for research. And luckily, in Sona, we've gone to the research path many, many years ago. Because of the abundance of research faculty that we have, the PhDs, so we are asking them to, and then coaxing them to become more research scholars. So that's one of the reasons why we have so many research laboratories. And I'm proud to say that most of the rocket motors that go up in space, be it rocket motors, be it satellite motors, be it fuel mixers, be it navigation motors, all have been done by Sona for ISRO. And so Sona motors are not only flying in the sky through our research thing in designing these motors and manufacturing them, we are also under the ground. And similarly, there are different applications of our research, right? So I'm just giving you the width. So one, we noticed a program on, somebody asked a question on nanotechnology. What's my future? So there are several new materials coming out through nanosciences. So we actually have 4 laboratories working, research laboratories working on nano. So both on the physics side of nano, the chemical side of nano, working on nanophotonics, working on nano quantum dots. The electrical team is working with our nanoscientists to developing nano quantum dot oil, for example. So the tremendous new material sciences are happening, which is happening here today. And if you're again looking at wearable technology, which again harmonizes a lot of these engineering concepts together, because it could be mechanical, it could be electrical, ECE, IT, computer science, and textiles. So we have a wearable technology research where we are investing 85 crores for R&D in terms of wearable technology. And there we are working with 9 Canadian universities, right, from University of Toronto, Ryerson, and the entire Toronto-based universities. Sona is the only institution in India and Asia to tie up with them to develop wearable technology research. So we are working with scientists from Canada as well as from India, and working with industries as well in both these countries. So there is tremendous research opportunities which are coming out because the world is moving faster in technology than ever before. Like Industry 4.0 is again bringing out a huge sea of change. And somebody asked a question of artificial intelligence. So that is coming in. So how do we live together and then develop cobots like what Mr. Parasuraman said? So this is why India needs to come up with more and more research companies. So and I'm very happy that a lot more product companies are coming. Ola is coming up with a motor manufacturing company. So like that, we need to generate more new thoughts. Otherwise, we'll become a East India company like what we were with the British, where somebody else thinks and we only are doing. So we need to develop the new vision for India and develop like what Mr. Parasuraman said about 40,000 startups now doubling, quadrupling. So that all of that research is the main crux.
So, Mr. Parasuraman, I have a question for you. It is all fine to say that you do research, and is academics the only way that the students can go, or would you recruit them in companies?
Pardon?
Who has 35 years of experience in companies, I'm just asking this question.
No, sorry, can you repeat your question, madam?
I said a lot of, if suppose students go into research and they want to get into an industry, company, yours is an automation, you've been in the automotive industry. So I was wondering, would you take a person who has done research, and what would be the placement that he or she would get? What is the future for such a candidate?
I think, let me put it this way. Honestly speaking, today, yes, the focus on research, both in the corporate side, also in the academia, is unfortunately very poor in this country. The kind of funding, when I reviewed the last 2 years, I was very shocked to see the funding. 468 engineering colleges have got funding from 0 to 5 lakhs. And only 43 institutes have got funding more than 1 crore for setting up laboratories.
And Sona is one of them. Yeah.
I have to really congratulate. So this is the state of research in this country. But when you look at a country like United States or Germany or Japan, I think this number is a very, very huge, significant number. Therefore, what is happening today, research means immediately the student will take up a teaching profession in in the medical research or in pharmaceutical companies. That is the scope available. But unfortunately for automotive research and all, of course, companies like, certain research organizations like AVL, they have a lot of doctorates, but the number is extremely low. Therefore, definitely it has to be addressed. But there's a huge opportunity in globally for these research students. And a country like India should also encourage these research students, and corporates should take more of research students. In fact, government also should get a regulation that every corporate should have a minimum of these research students in their, companies to promote sustainable research on the related products. I fully agree with you, madam. The current challenge is there. But there are companies which are focusing on this, and going forward, this number is going to increase. But nevertheless, as Mr. Chuko said, I think research is the foundation. If there is no research, the entire growth stops. I think all we talk about 5 trillion on this is not going to happen. And we have a huge gap compared to the rest of the world. Therefore, both from the corporate side, from the government side, and from the academia, I think we should encourage this, and we should create enough opportunities and give them that kind of a recognition. That's very important. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, Mr. Pattabiram, there was a question here about work ethics. So, what, although I don't remember what exactly they were trying to say. But I have this question for you. When you recruit a candidate or as an HR personnel, what kind of work ethics do you expect your candidate? Because it will all be overlapping with what you've already told us before. But still, what kind of work ethics are you looking at when a fresh graduate enters an
Okay.
industry?
Okay. Again, it's a great question to start with. Probably I would put it this way: a work ethics is an outcome or an output, right? That's primarily coming from the value system that an individual carries. Now, any organization would have its own culture. There is an organization culture based on which there are a set of values that the organization wants their employees to have. Example could be integrity, honesty. Now, these are the values. So, what we try to do is when we look at recruitment, we try to look at also what are some of those things that an individual holds close to their heart in terms of their value system, right? And if there is a strong fitment between the company that I'm working, right, whatever values the company is expecting, with the value system the individual carries, the fitment is much more stronger. Because, and we are not doing this just from the company's perspective, right? Even if the individual walks to the company, we want that person to feel comfortable, right? And that can only happen if there is a fitment between their value system and what the company wants the individuals to have. And for the record, right, and this is something that's very interesting, there are positions in the market, for example, which pays a premium if someone has very high integrity, right? And how we do that? We do a complete scanning of the market when we recruit people. And if someone has a clean track record, they get 3 to 4 times the compensation what otherwise the other candidate would get. Now, the logic here is very simple. It's not like 3 to 4 times an expense. It's that kind of an investment that is going to the individual who is having very high ethics, right, which is coming from their value system, through which the company would benefit in due course.
It's beautifully put. That's like something every student should take away, I guess.
Yeah, and then just to add a quick 10 seconds here, like what Mr. Patabi was saying, I think we believe in holistic education. So one of it is how do we serve society as well. So a lot of our research and a lot of the work that we have done at Sona is how do we work on these areas. So be it Women Technology Park. So it's a research center that we set up on how do we help women in villages. And for this, we got an All India award called the Leelavati Award for developing women entrepreneurship. Micro women entrepreneurship was developed by the staff and the students of Sona who got involved in developing small circular economies in villages. So this was one, and the other one is through COVID, through entire wave 2. So we set up and helped set up a 500-bed hospital in Salem. And we fed the entire 500 patients 5 times a day. And a lot of the students and staff are involved in putting this together. So the whole message is that, I mean, you have to be a person, you can be an engineer, but you need to, that's the oath that you take as an engineer, that you need to be a good citizen of India and the world. So that's that's part of the ethics as well. So, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
also to add there, right, when someone asks me, how do I build those leadership skills, right? Yes, you can still talk about so many competencies, but a very simple answer to this is be a good human. You would automatically become a good leader, right? And that starts even from the school days, from the college days. If someone walks into Sona tomorrow, right, try to help your batchmates as much as possible. Help your faculty, help the college. That's how you grow along with it. It automatically builds your skills. It makes you a better human. And you carry those skills right into the organization, where you start helping teams, you start helping your own team members. And that's the leadership skill that you pick on your journey, right? And at some stage, you're much more invested in others' well-being than your own. And that's when you become a great leader. So it's very simple, but sometimes we try to make it very complex, going after so many things which we need not even pursue in the first place, right?
Thank you. Mr. Parasuraman, just one final word from you on what an engineer can look forward to when he takes up engineering as a profession. And with that, we'll have to wrap up because we are running out of time.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a great gateway for his prosperity. Let me tell you, because engineering is not just science, but it is application. think thanks to the new educational policy, today there is a huge practical orientation and a lot of focus on soft skills, as I talked about, on teamwork, value systems, corporate governance, and serving the society. I think it makes us a complete human being and also contribute our learnings to society. And it gives you a plethora of innumerable opportunities to enter. As I said, sky is not the limit. Therefore, I think engineering is a great profession, and you can branch out to any other profession. The beauty of engineering is you can learn anything under engineering, including medical engineering, biosciences, biotechnology, aerospace, civil aviation. I think sky is not the port engineering, infrastructure engineering, and nanospaces. So material tech, everything is an ocean by itself. And each one is opening into a new ocean. Therefore, I think it doesn't matter if you have the passion. The most important thing is you should have passion, and you should be able to commit yourself with full pride, joy, and dedication. I think that happens. Rest is a history, and it doesn't matter. Only my request to students: don't be satisfied with 70%. Chalta hai attitude, 70% I am fine. No, try to go to the higher levels of excellence. That's why always we say 100 meters race. It's very easy to improve from 11 seconds to 10.99. But to improve to 10.98, it is also more difficult. Therefore, as you go higher and higher, I think the excellence is very important. Ultimately, you excel in whatever you do, whatever field. I think with full dedication and commitment, I think rest becomes history. That is my message to the students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It has been a wonderful session, and I'm sorry we are really running out of time, but it has been so good. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure the students also who participated in this took away a lot of good messages. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Parasuraman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Choko, and thank you, Mr. Pattabiram. Thank you all.
Thank you, Patabi. Thank you.